Welcome to Scars to Stars, where conversations and personal stories let us know we are not alone. In this show, you will meet authors and speakers from our books and events as they share vulnerable personal stories to spread hope and inspire you through adversities in your own life. The world is a difficult place. You will find like-minded people here with kind hearts and supportive souls. I am your host, Dina Brown Mitchell. I am a suicide survivor and the founder of the Realize Foundation. I am so glad you are here. Let's dig into this meaningful conversation. Hi there, it's Dina at the Realize Foundation, and I have a special guest to introduce you to today. Her name is Anne Plaisance. She's an internationally renowned painter. She has established herself as a key figure on the contemporary art scene with over 100 expositions worldwide. She has been awarded numerous times, receiving major distinctions as well as grants from the prestigious Cambridge Art Council and Massachusetts Cultural Council. Her work, marked by profound artistic and social engagement, has been featured in influential media outlets such as the Boston Globe, Harper's Bazaar, Elle Decoration, and Artscope, and she has been regularly invited on television and radio programs. Her creations are part of prestigious private collections in London, Milan, Paris, Warsaw, Dubai, Kyoto, and Boston, establishing her as a widely collected and internationally recognized artist. She has also enriched her practice through renowned artist residencies, including the Vermont Studio Center in the U.S. Sorry, you have to tell me how to say that one.
Saruya.
Okay. In Japan, and then DFEWA Mallnitz in Austria,
Yeah,
and
Mallnitz.
DFEWA in Montenegro.
Yes.
I might have missed a couple words there, but she is the founder of the transformative art exhibition Wonder Woman Now, and stands out for her commitment to women's empowerment and her bold approach to the global issue of domestic violence, making her work a true force for social and cultural change. And as a gift to all of you listeners, there's going to be a digital guide that I'm going to put in the show notes for you all to download. So welcome so much, Anne.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have a conversation with you.
Me too.
So where do you want to start?
I don't know, maybe we can speak about the series I worked on and I'm still working on for a few years.
Yeah.
I think it might be inspiring for your listeners. I really come from, contribution, and I'm always thinking, how can I help or serve? So the series is called Please Tell Her That I Love Her. It's an abstract series. Actually, let me show you in the right order so that, it gives an image. So, so the story behind this series began several years ago, like 7 or 8 years ago. So at the time, my daughter, my child was having some issues. She began to cut herself. She was thinking of suicide, and she ended up in a hospital because she was trying to kill herself, and to hurt herself in any way possible. So what happened was that one day while I was calling, so I was going to the hospital on a regular basis, like, bringing food, spending time, etc. But at one point, the nurses were like, you have to also take care of yourself if you want to be able to take care of her and help her. And so I was like, okay, you don't know what you have to do. So I was going, regular to the hospital, but also I was calling to talk with her. And one day, I remember this vividly. When I called the hospital, they told me, you can't speak with her right now because she doesn't have access. So I called the hospital to talk with my child. She was 12 or 13 at the time. It's everything is kind of blurry because it was just trying to survive the day, and and at the time they were like calling me sometimes like 3 times a day to tell me she tried to kill herself. This is what she did. This is what she did. So I was in a state of constant fear, panic, especially when they were calling, like, in the evening. It's their obligation to inform you what is going on, but like in the evening after that, I just couldn't sleep. So after that, I was like, you know what, you need to sleep. So you will listen to the message tomorrow. You don't need to listen to it at 7, 8, or 9 p.m. in the evening. So one day I called the hospital to talk with my child, and they told me, I'm sorry, you can't talk with her because she tried to strangle herself with the cable of the phone. So we can't, so we had to remove the phone. So, I could imagine the situation. So I told the nurse, okay, please tell her that I love her. And several times when I called the hospital, I was like, okay, please tell her that I love her. And it became kind of this mantra that initiated this, this series because at the time I couldn't see, like the meaning behind it, because I was just like trying to help her, trying to help myself, trying to help my family. I have another daughter. So what I did during this really difficult time was to paint, and I went from gigantic paintings like 70 by 105 to these little squares, basically, because I didn't have the time, I didn't have the energy. I changed from figurative artworks to abstract because when I went like smaller and smaller and smaller in size, I was just like obsessed with, will my child survive? So I was thinking about death all the time. So whatever I was creating was not helping me, to say the least. So I decided at that point to use what I was doing during art workshops in a shelter in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I was doing art workshops on a regular basis, and I was focusing on, joy, color, vibrancy, fun things. I was like, since I'm teaching that to others, maybe I can use this on me. So, okay, just select like pink colors, blue, greens, like beautiful color. No, put black away, gray too. And just, strokes of colors, composition, vibrancy. And it was, one little square at a time. So what I have a shape, I cut each of them by hand. So it's very meditative, it's very repetitive, and it's very soothing, actually. And just like doing this, these gestures with paint, with color, were very soothing for me. in that difficult moment. And actually later on I read there's a study at Harvard showing that after 45 minutes of doing arts, any expressive activity, your cortisol is decreasing, your stress level is decreasing, you are beginning to go into the flow, and you begin to be, like calmer. So I was doing that to not be all the time completely stressed out, and be able also to be, supportive of my family and my kiddo. So, and later on, when I began to think about it, like, this tiny square, I thought actually, love is made of all these tiny elements, all these colors, all these shapes. It's like not one love is the same. Each person is different. It's not like there's a magic formula and like just apply, in an industrial or massive way. So I was thinking, each square is symbolizing a gesture, a word, a tender moment, a tender gesture, the act of listening, a question. And it just became slowly this, mirror of what love can be, what can we do for others, what can we express, what can we share, and also the various multiple colorful ways of connecting with someone that you love. So that has been really, the message in this series, inspired by her difficult, very harrowing, very stressful, very life-changing too, because she survived. My child is alive, still has depression and social anxiety, but is here today, and I have a privilege of being able to see her, to talk with her, to tell her that I love her. I don't have to tell someone to tell her. So that's amazing. That's that's precious. So every time I look at this painting, it's like in the corner, so I can be on calls, and sometimes I will look and how can I be better at expressing love, at sharing it, at making her feel loved, because she didn't feel it for a long time. And before our call, I was talking with her and asking, if you could say something to your 12-year-old, because that's how old she was at the time, which is heartbreaking. When you look at pictures, it's like it's a child. Now she's very tall. It's much taller than me. It's not difficult, but and she was like, I would tell this 12-year-old child, don't blame yourself, because it's not your fault. I was deeply moved by what she said. I think, we tend to blame ourselves. I'm like, I might get emotional. I'm thinking, I'm also trying to not blame myself for, a mother. I wasn't always the best mother, and I'm like, I did the best I could, and I'm always trying to do better. When I know better, I do better. So it's always a work in progress. Mm-hmm. But I would say, like, the love was always there. It's just that sometimes you don't always know the best way to express it.
Sometimes it's hard.
Sometimes it's difficult. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you don't know what real love is. So it's difficult to express it in the I would say, the most beautiful way, You can have some colors and you can have some black or gray patches of colors that are that love to me.
So, when did you start doing art? Did you do that as a kid?
Yes, I was doing a lot of art as a kid. I loved drawing and I was very bad at painting, but I was drawing all the time. Until at school they were like, she's a good student, but she draws too much. So I kind of stopped drawing for a while and I came back to it actually in 2008. I mean, I had some episodes of creating with sketchbooks, with with collage, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But I would say I really went into it like maybe 15 years ago, something like that. When before doing art full time, I had my advertisement company in Poland, in Warsaw, where I was living at the time, and 2008 came, subprime crisis. I had to close my company, which was heart-wrenching because I had like 12 or 13 employees at the time.
Mhm.
And for a few months, I grieved it. And then I said, okay, how can I transform this into an opportunity? And I said, let's do art. Let's go back to school. I'm older, but that's fine. Let's do difficult things. And I went back to an art school for 1 year.
Mhm.
And actually, I decided to not. It was a time where I was supposed to prepare a portfolio, and then like go back for like 5 or 6 years. And for me, everything was interesting. So I was like, I would like to do painting, sculpture, uh, uh, conceptual art, printing, like everything was interesting for me. So the only studies that would have been perfect was like conservation, to repair paintings, to repair sculptures. Oh, that sounds fascinating. It was like 6 years of study. And I remember at the time I checked with students who were studying, and yeah, we begin at 8, we come back at home at 8, and then we have to do our homework. I was like, no, I want to spend time with my kids. I know I have a tendency to be a workaholic. So let's not go back there. Let's have a better life balance and have some time for art, but also time for my family and for the kids. And then I just followed my curiosity and found opportunities, and it just went kind of wild, like in many directions.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do your kids like art?
Oh yeah. So my young one, she's drawing, she's painting, she really is very talented. She has a beautiful sense of color. So I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. Like we should print this. Oh, really, she's. Of course, I'm very objective as a mother. She has a beautiful voice. When she sings, it's like, I don't know. She really has a talent for that. And my other daughter, who is in Europe right now, she's gonna begin to work. She's a very good dancer. She also loves to sing and to paint and make jewelry and knit. And it's like whatever she touches, it's like it's amazing. So I'm very inspired actually by my kids. It's uh, it's beautiful to see them, like grow, bloom, explore what they are curious about. Um, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a question, and if you don't want to talk about it, I'll edit this. But did you want to talk about domestic violence?
Sure, we can do that because everything is linked.
Okay. So I know when we first spoke, you mentioned to me and you mentioned it in your bio about domestic violence, and I know that is a big problem around the world. And so I wanted to give you an opportunity to share about that too. And you know, I think stories help other people know they're not alone. And also when we share what we learn through hard things, it helps other people too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can share why, I am so passionate about domestic violence. Um, it's a long story, but I will try to to shorten it. I would say like the first time I was in the US, the first time I was interested by the subject was I arrived in 2015, and honestly, I was really impressed by all the community work that people are doing, how they are involved, they are doing things for others. And we're like, wow, I haven't seen that in France or in Poland where I lived. So I want also to do something for the community. And at the time, I was absolutely fascinated with tiny houses. So I came up with this idea that I will build a tiny house, and homeless women will live into the tiny house. And I contacted several, which was a horrible idea. I contacted several organizations. Hey, you know what? I'm an artist. I have this idea. And I met one woman. She was an executive director of a transition house, a shelter in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And she listened to me. She listened to me and said, okay, I see what you want to do, but I will be very honest. It's a really bad idea. So, what? I was like, what do you mean? So she explained to me that very often homeless women, if they're on the street, it's because they flew, in many cases, domestic violence. And I had no clue about it. So fast forward, we ended up working together. I did art workshops. We had a show at the French Library in Boston with survivors of domestic violence. It was a beautiful show. So we went from the big tiny house to like doll houses. And it was amazing to see their creativity, what they were able to come up with. You could see the eyes, like, their pride after creating an artwork. So after this exhibition, I was so inspired by their strength and their resilience. I was like, I could never do that. I could never live with, like one kid here and one plastic bag with, like small belongings. So I decided to do a project called Wonder Women, which is a photography project showing them as, strong women, resilient, powerful, but with masks to preserve their identity. And the shelter at the time was very, they were really smart with what they were doing. So they invited me to some workshops, to some training. Oh, you will understand better. You will have a greater context. And for the first time, I heard about emotional abuse, about psychological abuse, about financial abuse, about spiritual abuse. And I was like, oh, I didn't know about it. I thought it was only physical abuse. So it made me think. And also what really intrigued me was the cycle of abuse. Like, I love you, I hate you, neutral, I love you, neutral, I hate you. And it's just like this cycle, this pattern of, like going through the wheel of huge emotions and huge abuse and like bigger and bigger abuse. So actually, coming back to my child, imagine the scene. She's 12. It's a Monday evening. She came back from school. She drew all over her arms because she loves to draw and, There's, of course, not enough paper in the house with a mom who is an artist. There's like too much paper and too much tools. And I touched her, and I felt that all her skin was cut, like everything under the drawings. And I couldn't see it. I had to feel it. And I remember my horror at the time, like, oh my gosh, my poor kid, what is going on? So, I gave her a hug. I'm like, what's going on? I know you are in pain. Talk to me. And I don't know if you read it. There's this amazing book, A Little Life, by Anya Guerra. I'm sure I didn't pronounce well her name. That is absolutely amazing, and I think this book saved my child's life. One day I need to write to this author. I knew that my child was in pain and that I had to do something. So I went to my husband at the time, and I told him, she's in pain and she needs our support, she needs our love. Go give her a hug. Go and support her. She needs us to be strong. He went to her, he shouted at her. He did exactly the opposite of what I had asked him. And then he came back to me and said, it's your fault. It's your child. Deal with it. And I was in shock. And I remember, like, it's a life emergency. We need to do something. And I remember thinking, like, I couldn't sleep the whole night. And I was like, okay, I need to save my child. I don't know how. We were like, I was new in the US. I had a really little understanding of what the health system, how it works, who to contact. So the Tuesday morning, I was like calling, like trying to find on internet some, therapists, psychologists, and, oh no, maybe in 6 months, or not answering the phone. It was a disaster. So I finally called the school, like, hey, I don't know what to do. Here's the situation. Help me, please, and help her. So I went to the school, and they just, they had the processes, they have methods, they know exactly how to deal with that. And one thing at a time that I thought was like, I'm focusing on my child because she needs to be safe. She needs love, she needs support, she needs understanding, she needs professional help. I want her to live. I'm absolutely terrified that she will die.
Hi there, it's Dina. If you like our podcast and you're enjoying learning about other people's stories of overcoming adversity, please go over to therealizefoundation.org and support us by donating. We believe that conversations, community, and personal story can change lives and reduce suicide ideation. And we also have a way, if you have a business, you can support us without money out of your pocket. So go on over to realizefoundation.org and look at the donate page, and you can learn how to support us as a business, and also you can donate any amount. Thank you so much.
And I was like, okay, the situation with my husband is not normal. That's not what should happen in the partnership. It's like, why is it all my fault? I'm like, I mean, since, Eve and Adam, it's always women's fault, but come on, we've been married for so many years. I was in shock. It was like, okay, focus on just, trying to find solutions to help my kid. So after that, he, like a few days later, he said, oh, you really dealt greatly with the situation. I don't remember if he apologized or not, but I would say it was the beginning of the end. because my understanding after like a few years was that she was she revealed what was dysfunctional in the family. She just couldn't take it anymore. She was dealing with a lot of pain. She didn't feel loved. She didn't feel supported. There was a high imbalance between the way my ex treated my elder daughter and treated the younger daughter. She was like non-existent. So fast forward, it's 2020, it's COVID, it's the lockdown. We're in November, and it's November 20. I have a last look at our house. It was a ranch, a white ranch with a beautiful blue door. Of course, I'm into color, and I had a last look at this house. And one day I left my ex-husband with the kids and my dog. And even though I loved him deeply, there were things I was not willing to accept anymore, especially, seeing the pain, the despair, the sadness in the eyes of my kids. At the time, I thought, I'm strong. I can endure the psychological abuse, the emotional abuse, etc., all the cruelty that was thrown at me. But I really can't stand seeing my kids suffering that much. So I decided I prepared my exit for several months. And it was scary because he was at home most of the time because of COVID. And it was like James Bond movie. I felt like I'm a secret agent doing everything in secret, because the most dangerous moment is when you leave. And I had a friend who had told me at the time, I'm really afraid that if you tell him that you want a divorce, I'm afraid he will kill you. And my first thought was like, come on, I know we love each other. He's sometimes really unbearable, but sometimes he's really lovely. And then I was like, yeah, but in a moment of, emotion, you never know what the person will do. And sometimes he had reactions that I was like, how do you say that? Flabbergasted, completely surprised by his anger, his explosion of emotion. It was really scary. So I was like, I don't know. I don't think he would, but I'm not willing to take the risk, because it can be me and the kids. And then you hear all these stories in the media. We don't know what happened. They were such a lovely family, and suddenly he killed everyone. And you're like, yeah, because on the outside, it looked like the perfect family. It was like the perfect advertisement. But on the inside, the reality was much more complex. So, often I say when I'm talking about the art project I'm doing, I'm like, it can happen to anyone. I was living in a very affluent neighborhood where, all my neighbors were in shock when they learned that I had, left with the kids and I was hiding for a few weeks. Yeah. So you never know. It doesn't matter where you live, how much money you have, which culture you are from, which religion, which what the color of your skin is. It touches everyone, everywhere. And my message is very often, the more we talk about all these taboo subjects, whether it's suicide, whether it's child sexual abuse, whether it's domestic violence, it's all related. It's all, the less we talk about all these issues and the less we try to find solutions, the more it prevails. Secret is, is at the base of the shaming women, shaming kids. So the more we can express and, share stories, like through your podcast, the more we can help other people process their emotions, be educated about what domestic violence is, what manipulation tactics are. For example, I use art to convey messages. I can show you, how do you show how do you give a tangible form to something that is so untangible? So abusers are using like at least 40 manipulation tactics. Manipulation number 5, future faking, triangulation, lies, gaslight, hurt and rescue, you name it all. So the more we are able to, understand that it's a technique and it's not like our fault, but it's something that is methodically precisely used, a little bit like the composition of a perfume. And also like, the reference to the perfume is linked to the fact that odors are very strong. You can remember, like, oh, I loved the cake of my grandma when I was a kid, or like, this flower reminds me, it's our like the older part of the brain, so it's very strong, but also it links to the chemical bond that we have with our partner. There is this hot and cold behavior that bonds us, as it's as strong as heroin or cocaine. I mean, I've never tried, but it's really a very strong bond, chemical bond that you have with your abuser. I think it's important to talk about it because very often, of course, we are blaming women. Why didn't she leave? And it's like, because it's a cycle. So sometimes it gets better. Sometimes you don't recognize the cycle. As in my case, I was like, no, it's fine. He doesn't beat me. Yeah, but my soul is crushed and I have no sense of self. And I think I'm a piece of, I'm the one to be blamed. So I think, instead of blaming women, as it's often done in media or in conversations, etc., I think it's important to recognize how difficult it is because of this chemical bond, because of kids, because of the lack of financial independence very often, because, let's educate the kids, let's take care of them. Okay, one is going to work and the other one is staying with the kids. It's really... it's not a women's issue. It's really a systemic issue. It's a societal issue. And I think it's important to show how complex this is, like a perfume. It's like, women need to be educated financially. Women need to be educated about all the manipulation tactics to recognize them and prevent them from happening to them. They need to be educated about what safe relationships are. I mean, and men also need to be educated about how to be an ally, how to be supportive of women, how to voice, how to react when there's another man's bad behavior. Like, react. It's like we need men, we need good men to be present, to help, to support, to use their voice, to use their position, to use their money. When you look at, at the numbers in terms of investment in education, investment in girls, investment in health. It's just like a tiny drop in the ocean of needs. So it's when I look at, survivors of domestic violence, my view, and it was before I realized that something is wrong in my family, in my couple. I was like, wow, they had the courage. I'm thinking about all the survivors I've been working with. They had the courage to leave. They're actually not, they shouldn't be ashamed of themselves because they have a lot of courage. They are showing what society should be, like protect the children, protect the women. And they are, for me, that's why, I call them Wonder Women now, because Wonder Women, because they are showing a path to a better society where you protect children, you listen to the children, you listen to the women, you do something. Like right now, I'm so mad when I read what is going on, like, safe mothers who are like, who don't have access to their kids. There are stories right now in France, but you can find in the US with, the kids are in very dangerous situations with the parent, the unsafe parent. I'm talking, abuse, I'm talking incest, I'm talking torture, I'm talking, lack of safety, lack of protection. It just drives me crazy. And that's why I'm doing the work I'm doing to, even if it's a tiny drop in the ocean, it might help even a particular person. And this person help with have a ripple effect on others, on friends, on family, on kids, maybe on parents. So so I'm using this anger actually proactively, like, in a constructive way to say, I don't accept what is going on right now in the world, in society. And if I can do anything, I will do it, even on my, little level, by sharing stories, by doing art workshops, by creating in a few months, women empowerment app, by providing digital guides, by sharing stories and being vulnerable with, what happened to me. Even though I will be honest, like I know that many women who have voiced and expressed their stories are then bashed, shamed, discredited, aggressed. But I think that the more we hear stories like mine, we hear like thousands of stories, maybe, one story after another, we can change the perception. We can impact one person and shift, even a tiny shift in the mindset of people, because it can really happen to anyone. And I'm sure that there are like amazing dads out there who are like, who want to protect their kids and be supportive. It's really, like what we see a lot in the media is kind of a fabricated war between men and women, but it's like there's not a war. We are meant to work together, to build together, to change the world together, one person at a time, one tiny action at a time, one little square of color at a time. So sorry, I got really emotional.
That's okay. I think the other piece to this that we're not talking about is the men that we're talking about with domestic violence or, different kinds of abuse. I know it's not all physical, but some of those men were raised the same way. They were raised in houses where they were treated that way, and that's what they know. And so I think that is another systemic part of this problem is that they weren't raised in a way to know better. That doesn't excuse it. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying that there are um, there are problems for some of those people from what they've been through, and they don't know a different way to act because we're not teaching them. And I think, I'm a very God-fearing person, and I believe in God, and I think that the people who read and believe what's in the Bible, it teaches you these principles. And it doesn't mean you have to be a Christian to learn how to be a good person, but it's just that's where it came from for me. And I think if there's kids growing up without a dad, if there's kids growing up without any um positive influence in their life, then they grow up to not have those values. And I think that's part of the problem.
It makes me think like the past 2 years I've been working here in Boston with ATASK. It's the Asian Task Force Against Domestic Violence. And there's a ton of kids at the shelter, girls and boys. And like, my gosh, they have so much energy and they're so vibrant. It's just a pleasure every time I go and like, oh, hello, they're just wonderful. And I'm like, I remember like once I could see there was a little boy, he was like so worried about his mom because his mom was sick. And you could feel that, he was like, maybe, I don't know how old he was, like 9 or 10, but he became very, very serious suddenly. And he was really scared. And when his mom felt better, he was so grateful. And I was thinking, I think there are several parts to, why men, yeah, are abusive. Like there's the education system, school. There's the fact that men can't express their emotions. So they are disconnected from like a part of them. They're like, cut. Like, oh, be a man, don't cry, etc. There is all this education and this biases, this, thinking about what a man should be, what a woman should be. And it's hurting men who then are hurting women, and it's hurting everyone. This lack of possibility to be the full extent of who you can be. So there's this part that is I think that is really deeply hurting men because they're handicapped. They don't have access to their emotions. And then there's what I can see more and more, and there are some amazing books and studies about that, there's also the business part of that, the corporate part of, boys, when they create an account online, like Instagram or TikTok or whatever, within maybe 10 or 15 minutes, they are bombarded with misogynistic content, with porn, with content that is not helping them become a full human with strong values. And honestly, I don't think a little boy who is like 9 or 10 years old is ready to integrate, that kind of verbal violence, that kind of, sexual content.
Mhm.
I think it's traumatizing for them. And I'm thinking, I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine. She's French. She's back to France. She's a psychologist, and she has worked so much on educating her sons, as very like strong, caring, with strong values. And she was telling me, but it's insane, the content, the media, what you see in politics, in the corporate world, in schools, like everywhere. There's,
Yeah.
uh, patriarchal, misogynistic system that is like omnipresent. It's by default in a way. So even with the best intentions, it's a fight against the full system.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's, I think that's true for everyone in the world because we spend so much time looking at screens and looking at all kinds of things that we wouldn't have looked at before there was social media and iPhones. Um, and I think it has definitely changed our culture. It's changed our values, it's changed a lot of things. And I think it's not necessarily good. And I think some of it is on purpose. You know, that's what hurts my heart is that we're we're exposing younger and younger people to things that we would have never had access to at that age.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
It's and it's it's tough. All the kids have phones. I mean, not in all countries, but in the US, in France, in Poland, in Germany. Um, and how do you limit that? So you can see that there's more and more like digital bullying, and it's I would say I find it to be a very scary moment for kids
Hmm.
to be living in that kind of time because everything is immediate. You have access to a zillion information. You are targeted with ads. You are targeted with content. We get also slowly into our like own echo chamber. I think it's very difficult for kids to know right from wrong, what is normal, what is not normal.
Yeah.
So the more we talk about, the impact of that and what should be, the more we have education, like, in schools, but like educating parents too. The more we have AI used for good to educate, to empower, with a strong basis in ethics, and the more we can create some positive change, but takes time and will and people.
We might have to talk about some ways that we could install change. Like, I mean, in our nonprofit specifically, we're really trying to just get people to have more conversations, get people to check on each other, get people to say, "Oh, you crossed my mind. How are you doing?" Like those kind of human interactions are a start to have a conversation about whatever's going on. And it could be a hard conversation or it could be, "Hey, let's go to the movie." I don't know. It just depends. But I think the more human interaction we have and the more conversations we have and the more we talk about our personal stories, the more we can help others know they're not the only one that is struggling with something and they're not the only one, they're not alone. And that is, in my mind, the start of fixing this problem. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight, but it's got, if we don't talk about things, we can't heal, we can't fix. We have to talk about it. And I think it's, that's our whole mission is telling these stories. So people are like, "Oh my gosh, somebody else has been in the same situation. It's not only me." And how do we reach out and connect with that person and have a conversation with someone who really understands what we're dealing with? And I think that is a really good start, no matter what the situation is.
Exactly. I think, the more we share our stories and the more we find like points of connections, and very often, there's secrecy, there's shame, that doesn't allow to speak about this, but more sure what was painful for you, and the more someone can recognize, when they can recognize themselves in your story and say, oh, actually it rings a bell, or like it inspired me to make a change. So, I think that what you are doing with, your foundation, the podcast is absolutely amazing because it gives a platform. And I think that, there's so much digital content that is created like by that is kind of fake, that when you have real people, you see,
Yeah.
normal people, not I mean, there's a lot of content that is like transformed and like not real. So you just connect, and then you can have a conversation with a real person, go for a coffee, exchange. I'm like, I'm also thinking about the fact that, all the pain that we can have, if it's not transformed, it will be transmitted to someone else, you know. So it's our responsibility to take care of, our traumas, to heal them, to become a better person. I was talking with someone today who was comparing, who we are to a garden, and I found it really beautiful. It's like, yeah, people can, throw trash in your garden. You can have a lot of weed in your garden, but it's your response. You can sometimes ask the neighbor to stop, trash in your place. Hopefully they will stop at one point. But it's your responsibility, it's your garden. So remove the trash, remove the weeds, and then see which flowers do you want to have in your garden. Do you want to have a stone wall, or do you prefer to have a lot of, flowers everywhere, or I don't know, cucumbers, tomatoes, whatever. It's your choice. What you want to grow into your garden so that you feel beautifully, so that you have joy, so that you have love, so that you feel just like, that you can bloom. That's really, the main thing. So
That's a great analogy. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for being here and being so open and having this conversation with me. I appreciate it.
you're very welcome. It's I'm doing it because the pain I've been through, I really want to serve like the young, naive 20-year-old who was, believing in Prince Charming, and also who wasn't aware of her own traumas. I have some, childhood trauma too. So it's my way of transforming this into something that can be useful, but also it's a way of giving back, because the people in my life who shared their stories with me, who were vulnerable enough and who were authentic enough, they really helped me. They were the ones who were, who showed me that I can be vulnerable and I can be safe. I can tell my story and not be shamed for it. I can share what is the most painful in my life, because someone might be inspired by this story, might feel a connection, and it might help someone. Might help, someone who is dealing with a child who is going through, through depression, who had suicidal iterations. It might help a woman who is like wondering what is going on in her marriage or in her partnership. It might help a guy at work, like, maybe it's, manipulation technique that is used. It's like, it's just so prevalent that I think it's, it's when we can do it, it's our responsibility to take the ball further, to share all the good that I had, in my life, and to help others, to have,
I agree. I agree. And I'm really thankful for our conversation, and I'm glad we got to to talk about all the things we got to talk about today. And I can't wait for other people to hear the conversation and see if we have any feedback.
I hope you do. I'm really grateful for this conversation. It wasn't easy for me to be so, vulnerable and authentic. But when I see others doing that, it gives me permission to do the same. So when I do the same, I hope that, more people will be just themselves and will become more of who they are. So that's really.
I think it's twofold. It's when we are vulnerable and authentic, we get things off our chest and out of our brain that need to be, we need to get rid of so that we can be healthier and more positive and more happy. And then it also gives, like you said, other people the permission to do the same. So thank you again.
Thank you for, inviting me, having me on your podcast. I really, really am grateful.
I'm so happy you joined us for this conversation. My wish is that you found comfort and hope in your own unique situation. If you resonated with our message, please head over to therealizefoundation.org, where you can apply to write your own story in one of our books. You can also download our 60 Ideas for Self-Care on the resources page. I can't wait to hear from you. Until next time, you are not alone, you are worthy, and you are enough.